Manchester United at 3, live Super League Huddersfield St Helens at 7, and live NFL Super Bowl Indianapolis Chicago at 10, all on Sky Sports 1.
This is Sky Sports Live.
After a first for A1GP in New Zealand, the World Cup of Motorsport has returned to Eastern Creek in Sydney for its second event of 2007. Last year, it was Team France who were making the headlines. This year, it's the German team everyone's chasing.
Here comes Germany, really hunting around for that lead. Germany takes the lead, and Nico Hülkenberg is another teenage sensation. This has been an outstanding drive by the youngster, 19-year-old Nico Hülkenberg. Nico is making a name for himself.
A1GP is back in Hub of Motorsport in New South Wales at the Eastern Creek International Raceway in Australia for round 7. Today is qualifying. Hi there, high hopes for this weekend in the A1GP calendar. Last season, a mass of locals turned up to see some of the most dramatic race action the series has produced so far. Team France consolidated their dominance with a double win. This year, a certain German is taking on the mantle of Lapierre and Co. With me in the studio to enjoy all, a familiar face. We welcome him back, Andy Prio. Since we saw you last, Andy, another World Championship under your belt. Congratulations, but whatever happened to giving other people a chance?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Georgie. It's great to be back, and good to be back as a world champion again.
Keeping a keen eye, no doubt, on what's been happening in the A1GP season. What have you made of it so far? Yeah,
it's been brilliant. I mean, the level of competition has improved massively. The bad, or not so bad teams, should I say, but the teams that were struggling last year have really closed the gap. Hülkenberg, obviously, is massively impressive. But, you know, still the top teams at the front, Dams and Supernova, the guys from last year, still up there. But, you know, it'd be nice to see Robbie and Team GBR closing the gap to these guys as well.
Are we in danger, as we head further on into the business end of this series, though, of replacing Team France's domination with that of Team Germany's?
I think once you get a driver and a team working closely together, you know, Hülkenberg has formed a nice relationship with the team. He started to win. He knows what it takes to win. And, you know, that's very difficult to break that when you start going to a race meeting expecting to win, like Hülkenberg is doing right now. The confidence is massive and the team are giving him the car to do the job. So it's probably, you know, in a lot of formulas you do see this, especially in single mate formulas, you see domination like this. How good technically a driver is Nico Hülkenberg? Well, I think it doesn't matter so much anymore. Nowadays, the engineers have so much information from the cars. You know, Nico's very, very quick. As long as he can drive the car consistently and give good feedback. I mean, the technical side, you're seeing less and less from the driver nowadays because there's so much information from the car. Loic Duval, the new French driver, a new addition to the series. Have you been impressed by the way he's taken to it so quickly? Yeah, I mean, he's come from Nippon, so he's used to fast cars. So I think, you know, it doesn't surprise me. You know, he is an impressive guy and he's got a good CV. But at the end of the day, you know, the new drivers are coming in and adapting to the car very quickly. And that just goes to show that, you know, these cars are, once the teams have set them up right, are not so difficult to drive, I don't think. We have to talk about Robbie Kerr while you're with us. Having a difficult season at the moment, what do you put that down to? Well, it's very easy to be just a little bit off with the setup. And you know, and be a long way off the pace. I mean, you're seeing it so close nowadays with the qualifying and testing. It really has closed up. And if you're just a little bit off the sweet spot with a car, you know, you can be a long way down the grid. Robbie's got what it takes to win. We know that. Team GBR have got what it takes to win, but they've got to find the sweet spot with the car. And you know, I just don't know about the data logging and the information. Are they getting you know, good feedback from the engineers? They've got to find the setup that works, and at the moment I think they're a little bit off that. How complicated is this going to be? Because it was wet in practice yesterday, but it's now dry and actually getting fairly hot out there. Yeah, I mean, obviously the rookie sessions are, was a wet session, but I think that the fact that it's dried out, they can recall the information from last year. As you can see, the temperatures are going to be hot. Track temperature has a big difference, and does change the balance of the car a lot. So going into qualifying, the teams are probably going to be making a few, I would say, guesses on setup. But they're experienced now. They've got a year behind them, and that this setup information is going to be invaluable this weekend.
Yeah, apparently thunderstorms are threatening overhead in Australia, so that could be interesting. After 6 rounds then, this is how the championship table is shaping up. The series leaders, Team Germany, on 65 points. France, the champions, they're further back. They're on 46 points now, so the distance being extended by Germany. New Zealand on 43, and Great Britain at the moment sitting in 4th. They dropped down 2 places after they didn't manage to put any points on the table in Taupo. OK, qualifying not too far away. Let's get across to Lee Mackenzie, trackside.
Thanks very much, Georgie. Hello and welcome to the Eastern Creek Raceway. The sun is scorching and we are ready to race. One man who certainly is Robbie Kerr. He was pretty quick this morning. Robbie, you've been here before. Do you like this circuit?
Yeah, we went well last year. We finished second and we're hoping to go one better this year. But unfortunately, practice yesterday wasn't going too well, but this morning we turned it round.
You made a few changes yesterday. You seem to be going better today. Can we expect that progress to continue into qualifying?
Definitely. The car we got is good for the race, and I'm pretty sure it'll be good for qualifying.
Robbie, thanks very much. You better go get ready. Well, the rookie Ollie Jarvis is back. He was in the car yesterday. Ollie, we expected to see you in Taupo, but you weren't there. What happened?
Yeah, unfortunately I had commitments out in Japan where I'll be racing this year, and we spoke with Mr. Surtees and he decided it was best for me to concentrate on Japan but come back and join the team for Australia, which I'm very glad he decided to do. Like you say, weather's fantastic.
Now you're in a bit of a watching brief this afternoon, so from your expert opinion, how do you think Robbie will do? Who will be his nearest rivals?
I think there's 4 cars really in it for the hunt for pole. We're looking very strong. Robbie did a great job in the session today. I certainly think probably our strongest performance to date. I reckon we're very in strong contention for pole. I think Germany are there, but New Zealand showed also very good pace, and I think maybe France for the 4th spot. So prediction is GBR on pole, New Zealand 2nd, Germany 3rd, and France 4th.
Yeah, I like your poll. I think you could only say that, Ollie. Thanks very much. Well, not long now till the action starts. Back to you in the studio.
Lee, thank you. So Team GBR and A1GP back on familiar territory at Eastern Creek. But let's just remind you of the demands posed by this motor racing circuit with a familiar face, John Watson. But first, Lee Mackenzie.
The Eastern Creek Raceway is one of Australia's leading circuits. Built in 1991 for the Australian MotoGP, the track hosted the series for 7 years. A bumpy surface means tyre wear and pressures play a big part over the weekend. But go offline and you're onto the dust and dirt, and there's not much runoff, as drivers have discovered.
A lap of the Eastern Creek Raceway is 2.4 miles in length with 12 corners. Turn 1 comes up at 165 miles per hour in the dry. In these wet conditions, it's much slower and much slipperier, but you've got to watch for the bumps in the middle of the corner. Out of turn 1, it's the run down to turn 2. Major overtaking opportunity, but a very tight exit. That leads into 3 in the beginning of the flow of this racetrack. As you approach turn 4, the road falls away from you, but there's a compression in the middle of turn 4. Be gentle on the throttle here, otherwise you could spin into the infield. Immediately out of turn 4, you've got to position yourself for turn 5. Watch for the bit of resurfacing in the middle of the corner. That'll mean a different grip level at the apex. Hard on the power, up the hill into turn 6, and then immediately down to 2nd gear for turn 7. Very slippery on the exit of this corner. Back into the car, fighting for grip. As you begin to climb uphill into turn 8, you want to hug the curb all the way around this corner because you're immediately onto the brakes for the downhill braking into turn 9. This part of the racetrack will catch many out under braking. From turn 9, it's a run up to turn 10, a quick flick to the right, then immediately back to turn 11 to the left. Turns 11 in effect and 12 become one corner, running right out to the concrete on the outside. But it's important, as in any corner, leading onto the fastest part of the racetrack to get strong exit speed, because here you are back on the straight and doing 165 miles per hour.
Hugely exciting race here last year. Many fans, and certainly us in the studio, remember it for the accident involving A1 Japan and Hayanari Shimoda, where he hit the barriers at a high speed. Let's get Andy's thoughts. Is this a circuit where experience of it might make the difference?
Absolutely, and you've got John Watson there, what's he, 60 years old and still getting the car out of shape, so it's quite impressive. Absolutely, experience is important, but you know, these rookie drivers, these young guys are quick. What I notice about this track is very, very narrow and bumpy. You know, when the car gets out of shape mid-corner, there's not a lot of road left on the exit, and you saw in New Zealand guys getting it wrong. And I think we're going to see the same again here in the race tomorrow. It's going to be very, very difficult for them to do consistent laps.
There's only been a fortnight or so between New Zealand and Australia, where we are this weekend. What will drivers have been doing? Well, they've been travelling between those races, obviously, but what will they have been doing in their downtime?
Yeah, training, of course. You know, we're professionals. They will be having a little bit of fun. I noticed that the Netherlands were doing bungee jumping or something, and yeah, I mean, obviously it's a lovely part of the world, but I think they'll be sort of focusing, building up. I tend to think the week leading up to the race is the time you get keyed in, so they had the weekend after the you know, New Zealand round to enjoy life a little bit, I would say.
Well, touring car champion would love you to believe that it's all very, very hard work. OK, the first of the 4 qualifying sessions is due to get underway shortly. On the other side of the break, live qualifying from Eastern Creek, Sydney. Welcome back to Eastern Creek, Sydney. Qualifying imminent. We'll take you there shortly. First thoughts of Andy Prior ahead of it, though. Anti-clockwise circuit this, Andy. How tricky is that going to make things for the driver? Is it much of a difference?
It is actually. It is a lot of a difference. I mean, most circuits are clockwise, right-hand corners, and it's a little bit harder on the neck. And it's funny enough, you get used to driving around right-hand corners as a driver, and suddenly now all the most crucial corners are left-handers. But you know, it's something you get used to over the weekend. You've got 2 practice sessions, maybe 3, if you're lucky enough to be in the rookie session. So, you know, it's something you get used to and adapt to.
OK, well, let's take you trackside for the first of these 4 qualifying sessions. Our reporters Lee McKenzie and Simon Hill in the pit lane, and our commentary team of John Watson and Ben Edwards will guide you through the early action.
Looking inside the China pit, and Ho Pin Tung is going to be driving for them once again. We're about to see the green light at the end of the pit lane, and the signification that this first qualifying segment's underway, and we'll see who's first to take to the track. Quick run through the drivers for you. Karl Reindler drives for Team Australia. Brazil has Tuka Rocha. Canada, it's James Hinchcliffe. For China, Ho Pin Tung. For the Czech Republic, it's Thomas Enger. We're seeing Pakistan out there, Noor Ali at the wheel of that car. France, Loic Duval. For Germany, it's Nico Hulkenberg. For Great Britain, it's Robbie Kerr. For India, it's Parthiva Suraswaran this weekend. For Indonesia, it's Ananda Mikula. Richard Lyons we saw for Ireland. Tocacello for Italy. Alex Khatib for Lebanon. Alex Young for Malaysia. Mexico has Salvador Duran in the car. The Netherlands is Jeroen Bleekemolen. Johnny Reid drives for New Zealand. We've got Christian Murchison for Singapore, Alan van der Merwe for South Africa, Sebastian Buemi for Switzerland, and Phil Giebler for USA.
And we see Australia out on the track early. Karl Reindler just trying to take the opportunity to get a clear track, not waiting till the end when we'd expect the more competitive nations to be going out. They just want to go out. They ran a new set of tyres earlier in the session, so they've really used up one of those 3 brand new sets they have. So they're hoping that by doing so in the end of the Friday afternoon session, and of course they use it again in the Saturday morning session, they will gain something. But it's still been a steep learning curve for Team Australia. They're not at the level that Team seat holder and principal Alan Jones is demanding of his team.
Canada, James Hinchcliffe there getting ready to go for Team Canada. He was 12th quickest this morning, so a little bit of work to do to get that car into the top 10 in qualifying, but we've seen him perform very effectively. Pakistan, the only car on circuit at the moment with Australia, as we saw just going out, but Pakistan on a hot lap already. There we're looking down at the Australia pit as they wait to see what Karl Reindler can achieve. Slightly revised livery, you'll notice, on the Australian car this weekend. There's more green on the car, on the side pods, and a little bit less yellow than there was before.
Yes, I think they're taking a little bit of a tip out of the Team Ireland graphics on their car. They've worked very hard to make sure that car is distinctive and stands out on a camera lens, because this is a business that is supported by commercial sponsorship, and that's precisely what Australia have done. They've gone for a much bolder green sideboard on the car, and of course the Fosters in blue with the white bordering does stand out much more clearly.
So through turn 1 safely, down towards turn 2. Remember, just one hot lap in each 15-minute qualifying segment. That's all you get. An out lap, the hot lap that he's on now, the clock ticking away, and then back into the pits again.
It looks like he's still struggling with the balance in the car. Sliding coming out of turn 2, sliding coming out of turn 3. Kyle Ryan, he's got the benefit of fresh tyres. The issue now is whether you go gently on your out lap to make sure you get maximum.
His new tyres on this first run. We know that Australia's sliding there, only got 2 new sets of tyres, so they may do this first run on one of the sets they had left over effectively from practice. Pakistan has already set their first lap, and Kyle Ryan here will try and improve on a 1 minute 24.113.
Well, clearly he's got a lot more grip than we saw from Australia this morning, and you can hear just simply by the ability to put the power down a lot earlier on the exit of turn 9 into this tricky turn 10 and 11 sequence of corners. Caught a lot of people out this morning, but Carl Reindler's got through it cleanly, got a good exit out of turn 12, and now just simply the run down to the start-finish line.
Great shots from the helicopter hovering overhead as he comes across the line. He does go quickest, a 1:21.2. How does that compare with what they were doing this morning, John?
It's about 0.3 of a second quicker, so they have picked up something on that fresh set of tyres. The time they did this morning was in a set of tyres that was a new set but had done a couple of laps on the Friday afternoon, but on the brand new set he's picked up 0.3 of a second.
But we are expecting the pace to be more in the 1 minute 18s, possibly high 118s, maybe low 118s. They managed it last year. The fastest individual lap time was Nicolas Lapierre for Team France, and that was a 118.1. So we would expect them to be getting down to that sort of pace. Great Britain definitely in the hunt here this weekend. He's been very quick throughout morning practice, and we're expecting him to show well. Team Lebanon has Alex Khatib in the car once again, as he raced in New Zealand 2 weeks ago. He's given the chance once more to back up the likes of Khalil Bashir, Basil Shaban, and of course Graham Rahal, who's also raced that car. But there is New Zealand. He qualified third last time out, did Johnny Reid for New Zealand, and that was the first time this year that he hasn't qualified on the front row.
And you could tell there was a lot of frustration for Johnny Reid in his home race at Taupo, but he has been really, in a sense, the master of qualifying in the second series, and expect New Zealand to be very much one of the front-running teams. But of course you've got to be careful on these 4 qualifying segments. If you blow it by making a driving error in any one of those 4 segments, you're going to put yourself under enormous pressure, particularly with this very high track temperature.
Well, he certainly attacks that final corner as he comes onto his hot lap. Let's see how he gets it going here for Alex Khatib, the 22-year-old. Just beginning to pick up the pace. Let's get down to the pits first, though, here from Simon Hill, who's with Alan Docking.
Alan, quite an early run for you there.
Yes, we went out early. It was a deliberate plan to... we're on our used rubber at this point, our old sets, and we wanted to give ourselves as much time as we could get. If there's any chopping or changing between this run and the next run, which will be on new rubber.
And from feedback from Carl, how's the car feel after that run?
He said over the radio that it feels pretty good. So it was a tidy little lap, and it's looking good.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon Hill there with Alan Docking, who looks after the engineering aspect of things for Team Australia. And they've set that early pace, 1:21.219. Oh, a bit of a slide there for Khatib for Lebanon.
He's turning the steering wheel very aggressively, coming into turn 8 down, breaking downhill into turn 9. You've always got to wait until you can feel the grip in the car, slides the car at the exit of turn 9. Now this final sequence of 3 corners, 10, easy to overdrive in 10, then you find yourself totally compromised going into this turn 11. But this time I think he's going to put the Australia time of 1 minute 21.2 under threat. He was just over 1/10 of a second down to the first sector, so he's in the zone.
Well, let's see what he can manage as he continues the lap, about to complete it. 1:21.2, the target time across the line. He goes second fastest, not by much. 1:21.4. Now, they also used a new set of tyres this morning, spoke to the team earlier, so they've only got the 2 sets of new tyres to use. This was the big slide, he corrected.
Yeah, no, that was just being too aggressive. That's the trouble with a young driver. You expect aggression from them, but if they haven't got that little bit of experience, and since it's India gets, oh dear me, runs way wide on the curb coming out of turn 9, and that will have shaved certainly the best part of half a second of the lap time. as they come up to these final 2 turns. Again, runs wide with a curb in turn 11 and then comes back and makes his line out of turn 12.
Parthiv Shuraswaran driving for Team India this weekend, and this is the first time he's ever qualified for Team India. He's run the rookie session before, but this is the first time he's gone into this real sort of pressure cooker situation. He goes 3rd quickest behind Australia and Lebanon, but faster than Pakistan, so he'll be relatively satisfied despite this moment.
Yeah, I mean, that was very well. He got the whole car over the curb and the outside wheels, and this is just being, again, too anxious. Again, a lot of inexperience with the young Indian driver, and again, you could say you lost the best part of half a second. As we look inside, the man who won the 24 Hours of Daytona last weekend is here this weekend, back in his A1GP car, representing Mexico.
Yeah, this is Salvador Duran. He drove with Juan Pablo Montoya and Scott Pruitt to win the Daytona 24-hour race last week. Yes, that's right, in between New Zealand and this race in Australia. He's been racing in Florida. Tremendous result for the youngster, giving him a big boost in confidence. And he's been on the pace pretty much this weekend. It's a track he knows from racing here last year. He didn't have a great deal of luck in the races, but he had shown pace here, and I expect him to be challenging pretty near the front. But there is perhaps the favourite to challenge at the front, along with this car, New Zealand and Germany. These two nations who push each other so hard. They're engineered by the same crew, effectively, and they push each other all the way. But don't forget that Team France is in there as well. Finished 2nd in both races last time out in New Zealand.
Well, we're going to keep an eye on these 4 teams, really, including Great Britain, along with the Netherlands and pretty much everybody out there. It's interesting that New Zealand have opted to go out with just over 6 minutes of the session remaining. I just hope that New Zealand doesn't catch a flurry of other cars coming out at the point where he's about to go onto his flying lap, and that would be very unfortunate for Johnny Reid, a man who has been so impressive in qualifying throughout this second series of A1GP.
Other nations on track at the moment include Ireland, Indonesia and Italy. China also we saw briefly, and Singapore. And it'll be interesting to see how Singapore gets on. Christian Murchison, driver for Singapore, does know this track pretty well, as his early racing career was mainly here in Australia. But this is New Zealand beginning the build-up now towards their flying lap, John. So how he deals with the last few corners on the track is going to be fairly crucial as well.
Yes, but he will be starting his progress way up at turn 12. And let's hope we get to see Johnny Reid as he comes through. This is turn 12 onto the straight. Let's hope we get to ride on board with the Team New Zealand car. Here we are with Johnny Reid. Listen, is he going to be flat on turn 1 or is he going to be flat?
Let's listen. You've got the throttle trace down below. Watch out. Is he flat out here? Let's listen. Absolutely flat out. No hint of a lift. And that's pretty impressive from Johnny Reid on his first qualifying run.
And you could hear the bottom of the car was actually just clipping the racetrack as he came through turn 4 and then under brakes into turn 2.
Tremendous traction out of turn 2. No hint of oversteer. Let's watch him down the hill into turn 4. And then they've got to switch back to the other side of the road for the left-hander.
Already 3/4 of a second up as he goes through turn 5. There is a patch in the racetrack that also affects the handling of the car just at the most critical part of turn 5.
On the power here. Again, tremendous traction, no wheel spin, no oversteer.
Much quicker turn 8 than it looks. It's one of those corners that's blind. You got to hug the curb. Now get the car, get the speed off the car. Now get on the throttle, because turn 9 is easy to overdrive.
Had a touch of oversteer that time. Now into the final section. Braking on the turn. Bit of power on, that was neat. Final corner. Good exit, hard on the power, no trace of wheel spin again. This should be a very quick lap. Italy have set the new target. Let's see what New Zealand does. One of the best qualifiers of the season. He's in the 18s, a 1:18.2, only a 1/10 of a second slower than the fastest time we saw last year by Team France.
Well, that's a nice banker for Team New Zealand. A clean lap from Johnny Reid. Everything worked as he had hoped, and they've got that time. They've now established the benchmark for everyone else to be the target of, and there we look into Nico Hülkenberg for Team Germany as we cut back to China as they come up to complete. I think this is the completion of the China lap, but Nico Hülkenberg, with just under 3.5 minutes of the session remaining, have got to go out and try and beat, and that's going to be a tough lap on 18.2. That's the first time in any part of the running that we've seen anybody get in to the 1 minute 18s as Hülkenberg leaves the pit lane and runs down into turn 2. He's got the Netherlands coming past, he's got the China car ahead as well.
Yep, that's not a problem. He keeps out of the way. It's New Zealand fastest, Italy second, Ireland third, and Indonesia fourth. But no, Mexico goes third. So now it's New Zealand, Italy, and Mexico. But Mexico only in the 19s, not nearly as fast as New Zealand. Makes me wonder whether New Zealand put the new set of tyres on and some of the others didn't.
I think New Zealand did put new tyres on. That's where they got that extra speed. They've got an advantage of just over a second from Italy. A good run from Enrico Tocacella to get ahead of Mexico. I think Mexico, you're right, they may well have run their original set of tyres. As we watch and see, this is the Netherlands, Jeroen Bleekemolen, very quick through turn 8.
Yeah, now keep an eye on the Netherlands because they qualified very well in New Zealand 2 weeks ago. Jeroen Bleekemolen really fitting so well into this team after that late call to join in at the beginning of the season and attacking these quicker corners now more and more. Let's see what he does out of the final turn. The split time indicated it's not going to threaten New Zealand, but Switzerland's just gone second quickest now to New Zealand. Let's see where this puts the Netherlands. Somewhere in the top 5, I would think. Across the line he goes. 4th place for the Netherlands. That's behind Italy, ahead of Mexico.
So we're still waiting to see Germany coming across the start-finish line right now to go onto their flying lap. We just catch the tail of the Netherlands car. We go back to the Czech Republic with Thomas Enger. So the Czech Republic, Thomas not noted to be an out-and-out qualifier, but clearly has got massive race speed. He's got to use that speed somehow more productively in qualifying to give himself a better shot.
Into turn 9, dropping downhill. Got to be patient here. Attack too much and he'll slide up over that curve on the outside. This is where there's really just one line into the next section. Seen several cars off at this section in the practice that we've watched already this weekend, but he keeps it neat and tidy there, on line and out of the final turn. Now, where's this going to put the Czech Republic? I don't think he's going to threaten New Zealand. New Zealand top dog at the moment. Switzerland second, Italy third, Netherlands fourth. Where does this put the Czech Republic? Well, down in 10th. That's not so good. They're behind China, behind Singapore. Now, let's see what we're doing here. Riding on board with Team Germany. This is Nico Hülkenberg. He's on a hot lap already. A little bit of traffic up ahead. Hopefully that won't slow him down.
But it is France. We're not watching France right now. We're with Germany. It is actually France who is out on track and fastest of all through Sector 1.
So, looking as though we could see some changes here. Will this challenge New Zealand's time? It's going to be close, but not enough. Germany goes second. Another car in the 118s. Not as quick as New Zealand. It's a 118.5. But France, as you say, John, on a very quick lap. And Great Britain also on a lap as well at the moment. And not quite quick enough, I think, looking at the split so far. But let's see if he's made it up in the third segment.
So Team GBR comes out of turn 12. We're looking to see where France is. The checkered flag is coming out. So this session is almost over. In 5 seconds it will be.
New Zealand quickest. Great Britain goes third. It's New Zealand, Germany, Great Britain. But what about France? This is a quick lap from Team France coming up here. But I'm not sure if it's enough to take top time. It's going to be very close. Cross the line. No.
Oh,
no.
Very disappointing because they were up in that first sector. Somewhere in that lap it went wrong for France. They're not only 4th, they are actually 5th behind Switzerland.
That's a surprise. Loic Duval very rapid on the first sector of the lap. But the second 2 sectors did not come together. USA slowing down, oh no, still on his quick lap actually. So Phil Giebler hasn't finished his hot lap. He's the final car to finish his hot lap. And let's just looking at the sectors, I think he must have made a mistake somewhere.
I think, yes, he's come into the pit lane, so he has not gone to complete the lap. So we think, in fact, Phil Giebler may have gone off track. Let's have a look and see on the replay. So this is Phil, oh, that's why, into turn 9, he got it all wrong, under braking. I told you to watch turn 9, that's the downhill braking, of course. When you brake hard, downhill, the back of the car gets light, you locked up brakes, and that's what happened to Phil Giebler, and that's a big disappointment for Team USA, who were in fact 11th quicker this morning. But as we watch Nico Hülkenberg also being too aggressive on the brake into turn 9.
Well, interesting first segment of qualifying. That's the first of 4 15-minute segments, remember. And at the moment, it's New Zealand quickest. But you've got to get 2 times added together to give you your combined qualifying time. New Zealand on top from Germany, Great Britain. Then it's Switzerland, France and Italy. And talking about big improvements, John, how about that for Italy? They were last but 1 this morning and they're now in 6th place, I believe.
Yeah, that was a strong run from Italy. We didn't get to see them during their lap, but Enrico Tocacella got that lap in pretty early. He was one of the first 3 or 4 cars on the racetrack, and he popped his lap in and he's got himself positioned in the top 3 rows of the grid. Interestingly, this man Johnny Reid did a very good run indeed. He's gained a 0.3 of a second advantage over Germany, Now, whether that was on new tyres, which we believe, or not, or whether Germany were on new tyres, which we believe they were as well, therefore it looks like once again New Zealand's taken the initiative.
Eastern Creek, Sydney, the venue for A1GP this weekend. Session 1 saw Team New Zealand putting in the quickest time. Johnny Reid in the driving seat from Germany in second, and GBR with Robbie Kerr much more impressive in Eastern Creek and currently lying in third spot after Session 1. Session 2 then just about to get underway. The local fans watching on. Over to John Watson and Ben Edwards for more.
The area of the Eastern Creek circuit looking pretty dry and parched. It has been very dry here. The rain we had on Friday morning, just before the rookie session, was the first rain in some 6 weeks.
Yes, and it really didn't do anything for the parched ground around Australia, particularly Sydney, and pretty much every state suffering from a drought. And that's, the camera shot really does tell you just how the conditions are off tarmac here at Eastern Creek.
So Pakistan first onto the track once again. Noor Ali, who wasn't last in the first segment because, of course, USA had that problem. And indeed, Johnny's been a bit closer to the others around him at the lower end of the grid this weekend, and seems to be sort of dialing himself into this Eastern Creek circuit a little bit more effectively than some of the other tracks.
Well, I think part of the reason is that this circuit and Taupo, the last circuit we visited in New Zealand, are not that dissimilar. They've got a longish straight, New Zealand didn't have this very quick corner at the end of the pit straight, but pretty much the corners from turn 2 here all the way up until turn 12 are not unlike those in New Zealand, and therefore the track is pretty similar, and he has been allowing himself to use that experience from New Zealand to translate into a stronger showing here in Australia.
Chris Gaughan on the right, Johnny Reid on the left, David Sears just coming into picture as well, masterminding another top performance for Team New Zealand, fastest so far. Can he hold on to that? Sebastian Buemi for Team Switzerland, very impressive again. 4th quickest after the first segment.
He's got a pipe going into his helmet, but it's so crimped, I don't think he's going to get anything through it.
Well, moisture won't be such a problem today, of course, or rehydration rather won't be such a problem. Tomorrow it could be a major factor. Loic Duval for Team France lost out on the second 2 sectors of the lap for some reason. Ended up with the 5th quickest time, but he'd still be a factor. And we're now watching the hot lap for Team Pakistan. Let's see if Noor Ali can dial it in, all car sliding around. Let's see if he can keep it all together and really try and improve his time. His best so far, 1:24.113.
Yeah, a lot of inexperience still with Noor Ali, and I think it showed up on the exit of 2. And what I think he is doing, he's not using the throttle pedal as he ought to. Sometimes a driver will tend to open it too aggressively, too abruptly, and that puts too much power through the rear wheels, causing the back end of the car to snap out. You've got to really use the throttle pedal a bit like an organ pedal. It's there to be squeezed, not to be slammed.
Great overhead view, although it flattens the circuit out a little bit. Our view from the helicopter, you can see how it flows from one corner into the next. He's coming down to the final section where you've got this real one line into the right-left, braking on the curve virtually right there, bit of power on, and then into the all-important last turn.
Well, the difficulty everybody's faced is 10 turns a much quicker entry than turn 11, and drivers are not able to shed the speed when it counts, but Noor Ali's succeeded in getting through all 12 turns, comes across start-finish line, and let's see, well, a 1:21.937, a significantly faster time for Noor Ali, and that again one would suspect was a time on a brand new set of tyres, contrasting his original time, which was no doubt on a set of tyres that he had previously run.
That's a good effort, 1:21.9 for Noor Ali there. That's a lot quicker than he's gone so far this weekend, and I think he should be well pleased with that, and may well put him in the hunt to on the last few places with India, maybe Lebanon. There could be a little bit of a battle between those nations. We'll see what happens. There's Alex Khatib coming out now for Team Lebanon. So he's got new tyres. You can see the shine on them, so we know that that's on a brand new set of tyres, and we'll see how his performance relates to that of Pakistan.
So the long run down the pit lane, and interesting to talk about what Mexico did by not putting tyre warmers on their tyre. They didn't want to put excessive heat into the tyre, not just the tyre surface but the tyre carcass. They believed that the outlap, if you ran a hard outlap, you would probably get the heat in the tyre the way you would like to have it, but at the end of the day Mexico ended up only 10th quickest, and that was a 1:19.4. against a 1 minute 18.2 for New Zealand.
Beads of sweat there as we look at Tukat Rocha and the Brazilian car, just sitting and waiting to come back out. He's actually got an injured left foot. He injured it jumping into a shallow lake, which he thought was a lot deeper. He ended up landing over on his ankle, and he's been hobbling around on crutches all weekend, but he's still in the racing car.
Well, all I can say is he's lucky he didn't do a pike with 3 twists and whatever, because it would have been his neck rather than his foot. So the lesson is, don't jump into something where you don't know the depth of.
No, that's right. But I asked him how he was managing. He said it's okay, but it is very painful when he has to use the clutch. It is his left foot. Thankfully, as he said, it's not his right foot.
China flirting with the curb on the outside of turn 1. They were a little bit too wide, too early in the exit of turn 1, but they got away with it. So Ho Pin Tung took a big punt there going through turn 1. So far it's worked.
Yep, so far. Let's see whether he can pick up the pace a little bit more. He was 13th after that first qualifying segment, the first 15-minute session, and now he's into his second hot lap of the afternoon. Got into the points in the last race in New Zealand at Ho Pin Tung, who, remember, has only joined the Chinese team for Indonesia and New Zealand. This is only his 3rd event for the team. His best qualifying performance, 12th in Indonesia, so that's what he's looking to improve upon.
Locks it up into turn 9. We've seen a lot of that throughout the sessions we've so far had here in Eastern Creek. And again, it's a corner that's falling away from you, so the unloaded wheel is the wheel that's going to get dragged into, and it can give you a scuff or a small flat spot. You don't want to get any more than the small one, otherwise you'll be struggling for tyres for the point when it's important, which is Sunday.
24-year-old from Shanghai originally, although he's been living in the Netherlands for the last few years. Let's see, it's a combined time, remember, that you're looking at now. Their 2 best laps, and of course they've already done 2. We're in the second segment of qualifying. So he goes fastest of those that have done 2 laps. His individual lap time, a 1:20.0, slightly slower.
Yeah, it's what you'd expect on the second lap. He obviously went out on new tyres in that first segment, and he got the best of the tyre, and he's ended up just, what, half a second, just under half a second off the time that he's done in the second run. So he's used that one set of tyres twice now. Hopefully he'll have a couple of more sets for the remaining 2 segments.
Now here's an interesting lap coming up for Lebanon. This should put them 3rd, but that's a good lap actually, 1:19.9. Now we know he was on a new set of tyres, but nonetheless that's a good lap from Alex Khatib. Puts him back ahead of Pakistan. So it's China, Lebanon, Pakistan. They're the only 3 nations that have so far completed 2 flying laps in the 2 segments of qualifying.
So Carl Reinder just sits in the car, waiting quietly for the opportunity. We've got 8 minutes, just over 8 minutes remaining. France also need to do a lot of work in this session to make up for that. We don't know where he lost the time, but somewhere Loic Duval in his first segment lost time. We expected him to be possibly challenging New Zealand for that quickest first sector, but didn't come.
Interesting to know that South Africa's just gone out of the pits as well. It's a fairly early run for South Africa, but India on the hot lap already. So of the nations that aren't expected to perform quite so well this weekend, we don't have Narain Karthikeyan in the Indian car. He went very well, of course, in New Zealand and managed to score India's first ever points in A1GP. This is Parthiv Shuraswaran driving the car. He's not nearly as experienced. He's raced in Formula 3, he's raced in the United States. There you can see new tyres, by the way, on the Australian car, just about to come out. But didn't race at all in 2006, did Shuraswaran. So he's really having to get back up to speed very quickly here.
Yeah, and one thing he's done, he's a young driver again, like A1 Ibrahim, but he really seems to want it, and the team feel that this is the reason they've gone down this route rather than going back to A1 Ibrahim, because they weren't convinced of his ultimate desire. And of course what they really want is Narain Karthikeyan back in the car, and he will be back in South Africa, in Durban, in 3 weeks' time.
So let's see where this puts India in comparison to China, Lebanon and Pakistan, the 3 nations. Well, he goes ahead of Pakistan, not by a huge amount, but by a little bit, but behind Lebanon. A lap of 1:22.0, very similar to the lap he did last time around. Waiting for the heavy hitters to come out, although, as I mentioned, South Africa is on a hot lap at the moment. There we are, Alan van der Merwe. Watching him in the latter stages of the lap, coming down through turn 9, just 10, 11 and 12 to complete.
Yes, Alan seems to get the car nicely positioned on the racetrack to make the exit out of the corner as effortless as possible. And a little bit of a battle with the back of the car coming through turn 11, but hopefully that will not have cost him too much time. First run for South Africa was a 1:19.885. Not as what we would have expected from South Africa. Let's see where this places them now.
Well, he goes second. He goes second. He's not quicker than China, so that's a little bit of a surprise. Half a second slower on the combined times from his first two segments. Now, but I do gather that South Africa are a set of tyres down on some of the others. They did use a new set in the Saturday morning practice, so it means that they may not show their true strengths until we get into the last two segments of qualifying.
Indeed, as we watch Australia on that new set of tyres, Karl Reindler makes his way down into turn 2. This is going to be one of the major places on the racetrack. We'll see lots of action when it comes to overtaking. You've got to get a good run off turn 1, but we saw lots of it there last year when it was extremely busy, as Karl Reindler makes his way up now into turn 4. And then you come out of 4, you've got to dip again into 5, and that part of the racetrack that's been resurfaced. Then a short sprint, you're climbing slightly uphill, a flick through turn 6, then you've got to get the speed off for turn 7, and here easy to run too wide in the exit, clip the side of the racetrack and throw up dust onto the circuit.
Into a fast fourth gear left-hander, taking about 160 kilometers per hour, 100 miles an hour, down towards turn number 9. And let's see what he can do on the last sector of the lap as well. Up to 5th gear before coming into turn 10 very quickly, but then getting it all slowed down, braking down to 3rd gear, about 70 miles an hour. Bit of a blast of the throttle, stay in 3rd gear, and then about 90 miles an hour, 140 k's onto the main straight, building up that speed. 4th, 5th, 6th gear. Where's this going to put Team Australia? China top dog at the moment. Are they going to go faster? No. They go 3rd. It's China, South Africa, Australia now 3rd, Lebanon 4th, India 5th, and Pakistan 6th.
Right now we've got France on a hot lap. They currently have gone through the 2nd sector. They were quickest of all through the 1st sector. Here we are with France up at turns 11, coming into turn 12. So can Loic Duval undo the damage that he seemed to do to himself on that first run? Remember, France's first run was a 1:19.229. He needs to be into the low woman at 18s if he wants to be at the races on Sunday.
Well, he goes fastest, and what's the individual lap time? It's a 1:19.0, so not into the 18s as yet, so we'll see what New Zealand can do. They were fastest after the first segment of qualifying, remember. The likelihood is they're running the tyres that they used in that first segment.
Yes, now keep an eye on what Johnny Reid does. Look, 4 tenths showing under the best so far. I suspect that Johnny Reid on this set of tyres, as there was Duval also, who had a set of tyres he ran in the first qualifying segment, will probably lose the best part of half a second. In the case of Duval, he lost, in fact, only 2/10 of a second quicker, so clearly he made a big error somewhere around that first sector. But Johnny Reid, he would expect to be doing something in the high woman at 18s if the consistency of this team is to be seen again.
So France on top, Mexico now gone second. Looks like New Zealand's going to retake that top time, but Mexico currently second, Indonesia 3rd. Good effort from Ananda Mikkola to have moved up the order somewhat. Indonesia could be in the hunt for a top 10 place here, which would be a big boost for them. Let's see what New Zealand does though. This is likely to reclaim the top spot here for Johnny Reid, for Team New Zealand and for Black Beauty. Across the line yet by half a second his advantage over the 2 laps, although that particular lap not very fast.
That's part of 0.7 of 3/4 of a second slower than he achieved on his original run on this set of tyres. So there's a bigger drop-off we're seeing here on the second run than we maybe anticipated. I put that down to the very high ambient and very high track temperature.
Well, let's see what Germany can do, because they were 3/10 or so behind New Zealand on the first run. If he can get a better run on these used tyres than Johnny Reid did, of course Germany could take the top spot here.
Looked like he ran a little bit wide in the entry into turn 2. That would have cost him time. Well, there you can see already showing time. But a car again ahead. He's got to be careful where he catches that car. It's going to be up into turn 7 or into turn 8. That will have a bearing. It is Team GBR. He's got to get out of the way and let Germany continue this lap.
Yep, Great Britain on the inside, moves well out of the way. Robbie Kerr on his out lap, so he's not on a flying lap yet. Doesn't cost him any time or hurt him to do that. New Zealand still quickest from France. Switzerland up to 3rd, Mexico 4th, Italy back up to 5th, then Netherlands and Singapore. But Germany surely going to go back into 2nd place at least here. Let's just see how the rest of the lap goes. Half a second down he is. He could be in danger of losing second to France unless he gets a good final sector of this lap.
But he's got an 18.5 in the bank already against France's 19.2. So he's got a margin there to give him consolidation in that second place, but we don't know the lap until he comes across start-finish line now.
Third quickest. He is fractions slower than France on the combined times of the 2 laps.
He lost a second as opposed to Johnny Reid, who lost 0.7 of a second, and that's allowed France to slip back up in onto that provisional front row. Robbie Kerr, is he flat through turn 1?
Yeah.
Would he dare be anything else?
He was flat through turn 1, no problems at all. Let's see whether this is going to get Great Britain back up the order again. They were third, remember, after that first segment of qualifying. Everything still to play for here. It's just a question of how quick he can be. But again, he's likely to be on used tyres, and the real battle is going to come in the last 2 segments of qualifying, when we'll see just how fast they can all be. Robbie looking very confident after practice this morning, not only the car in qualifying trim, but also in race trim. And they're hoping for good things over the dust there of somebody else.
Hey, well, he kicked the dust himself. He ran the wheel off the side of the road, but didn't really have any great bearing. He's got Germany ahead of him now, so hopefully Germany will be as generous to Great Britain as Great Britain was to Germany.
The other team still to finish off their hot laps. Canada, well, Canada's just done that and gone 5th. Ireland as well, just finishing off their lap. They've gone 11th, and it's Great Britain who's going to be the last one to set a time.
Yeah, a little bit of a slip the back of the car as he came through turn 11, so that'll have taken a 10th off this particular lap. So Robbie Kerr battling to get into the top 3, certainly on the second row of the grid. That's got to be his aspiration. Well, he's 4th quickest. He's still in the second row of the grid, but he'll be disappointed.
Yeah, but I think there's still plenty to play for here. They've all done their run on the old tyres. Some cars work better than others on old tyres, but it'll be their next 2 runs that surely will define their grid positions.
So let's just look again and see as he comes out of turn 7. This is the run up. He just gets the wheel over the white line and kicks up the dirt by the side of the racetrack. That wouldn't have cost him any time because he had the wheel part on the racetrack and just really riding the edge of the curb.
So James Robinson, engineer for Team GBR, just communicating with the team, perhaps with Robbie as well. They want to make changes. They've got to do it fast because you get a very little gap between the segments of qualifying here. You do not have much time to make major changes to the setup of the car, and you've got to get on with it as soon as the car comes back into the pit lane. But so far so good for New Zealand, and Johnny Reid, who really has been the outstanding qualifier of this second season of A1GP, is looking very, very strong once again. He was on pole position in both the Czech Republic and in Indonesia. He didn't qualify quite as well as he would have liked last time, but he still ended up 3rd on the grid, and he wants to be back on top here. France 2nd, Germany 3rd, Great Britain 4th, Switzerland a very strong 5th, Canada 6th, Mexico 7th, Italy 8th, Netherlands 9th, Singapore 10th, Indonesia 11th, followed by Ireland, Czech Republic, Malaysia, China, South Africa down in 16th, Australia 17th, Lebanon 18th, then Brazil, India, Pakistan and USA.
Welcome back to Eastern Creek, Sydney. 40 miles or so outside the city centre for this race weekend by Australian standards. That's practically on the doorstep. This is how it finished then in session 2. New Zealand and Johnny Reid leading a close pack. France currently 2nd, Germany 3rd, and Great Britain at the moment lying in 4th spot. So qualifying well underway now. Let's rejoin our commentators John Watson and Ben Edwards as they guide us through session 3.
We're just over halfway through the qualifying here at Eastern Creek in Australia, just west of central Sydney. It's a beautiful day. It's boiling hot. The track temperature has climbed and climbed, but we're in for quite a shootout between the top nations, which are New Zealand, France, Germany and Great Britain. The top 4 nations so far in qualifying, with Switzerland, Canada and Mexico in the hunt as well. Now Pakistan making great progress this weekend, getting much closer to the general pace. Let's see if Noor Ali can continue that progress here in his 3rd run.
And there's the man who's been keeping us all highly amused. That's a wonderful beard and matching hair to go with it. So, and he also has responded very much to the attention that he's been getting. But let's get back to the serious stuff. Salvador Duran with Mexico's engineer discussing whether the changes they have made or what they want to make or what are they going to do. It's very much there. You see the temperatures of the tyres. Those are the tyre I was going to say tyre warmers, but in fact those are the tyre warmers. That's giving us the individual tyre temperatures. They're preset, they can adjust them up and down depending. Mexico, of course, we know went without any tyre warmers on that first run. Didn't seem to do them any good, so it appears better to go with what is the known and stick with that.
Yeah, it is interesting though, isn't it, John, that I mean, the track surface makes such a difference to what the teams do with the tyres in terms of temperature in those tyre warmers, and also how they drive the outlap. In Taupo, they were driving it hell for leather on the outlap to bring the tyres in. I don't think that is quite the same case here.
No, I think in Taupo it was a brand new racetrack, brand new surface, and the racetrack and surface were coming in by the lap with the cars on it. This is an established circuit. It's stabilised. That's really where I'm trying to go. And O'Reilly goes well. He does a good job. Gets round turn 1. Looks like he was pretty committed. But it is about the surface here. This is a surface that it's hard on a tyre. The drop off in performance from the ultimate performance lap, which is your first flying lap, thereafter is quite significant. It drops to between 1.1 to 2.1. So there's a big variation between the first 3 or 4 laps on a new set of tyres, and therefore you've got to be absolutely precise and make sure that there are no mistakes.
Well, let's see what Noah Ali can do here. Let's see if he can avoid any mistakes.
I think he's got a gearbox in neutral.
He lost a gear.
I'm not sure. I think he pulled the wrong lever. I think he went into, what's he doing? He looked like he came into turn 7 and he pulled the gear to go up rather than the gear to go down.
Very strange. He suddenly hit the rev limiter midway through the corner. He seemed... Was he broken a drive shaft?
Could be a drive shaft.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of drive shaft failures. Ireland had one in Taupo. That could simply be a mechanical failure for Pakistan. Looks like one of the drive shafts, the left one, is spinning irregularly, so an elliptical spinning.
Limited slip diff will hopefully get him back to the pits. He'll have some drive still, but just take a look at the back of the car.
Well, look, there's something very strange, and I think that is a drive shaft.
Could well be the drive shaft failure, or a CV joint failure perhaps on that left-hand side as we look at it, and hopefully he's going to get it back into the pit lane, so it won't cause any problems for others. But unfortunately, that's rather ended his 3rd qualifying attempt. So he's only got 1 left now.
Good news is that there's Connor's hand out of the cockpit waving like mad. You know, I don't think he needs to do all that stuff. That's a bit amateur dramatics. But the good news is that this set of tyres is going to be pretty fresh, because he was only halfway around the lap when the mechanical problem that appeared prevented him, completing his lap.
Well, he's I think maybe it's the first time he's experienced a drive shaft failure, so he probably doesn't quite know what happens and what the car does.
I think the car, the reason he stuck his hand out was that he wasn't sure he was going to slow down, because you've got to slow down to 60 k's before you come in the pit lane. But there's also a tyre wall chicane at the top of the pit lane. I think he was just warning people that they're coming down. I may not be in control, which maybe makes a change, and just get out of my way.
Well, he's obviously not happy about that. But that's the way it goes sometimes. Poor old Ireland had that drive shaft failure last time out.
If it is a drive shaft failure, the Pakistan team are going to have to work very hard indeed.
Yeah.
Because we've got 10 minutes, just over 10 minutes this session remaining, plus 5 minutes, so we've got under 16 minutes before the action will recommence for the final qualifying segment.
That's right. So they'll be hard pressed to get the drive shaft replaced. On track now, though, is Team Lebanon. Of course, involved in a bit of a battle towards the lower end, but Lebanon currently ahead of Brazil, ahead of India, ahead of Pakistan. They're also ahead of USA, although that's slightly out of kilter because USA have only effectively done 1 qualifying lap and everyone else has done 2. So it's likely that USA will move ahead of them, but they're still doing pretty well, ahead of Brazil, India and Pakistan. And maybe Alex Khatib could go after the next one ahead of them, which, would you believe it, is Australia. That's right, Australia and Lebanon are close together at the moment in terms of potential qualifying position. 17th for Australia and 18th for Lebanon.
Well, I'm not sure Carl Reinder would like to have heard that particular statistic. His eyes just looked up at the camera in the pits, and he certainly can see the pictures. He can't hear the commentary, which is probably just as well for that one. Ben,
just as well, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he's hopeful that he can move up a bit from where he is at the moment on home soil. 17th place will not keep the Australian team happy at all. In the French team there's still some discussions going on. They moved up to 2nd, remember, after that 2nd qualifying segment. Big jump, they were 5th after the first one. Through turn 1 safely, the car bobbling about a bit at high speed, but Alex Khatib keeps it all neat and tidy and under control.
Yes, he's just feathering the throttle mid part of the corner until he gets the car pointing pretty much in a straight line, then he can chase the throttle and get up to speed as he comes down the hill into turn 4. One of the parts of the racetrack which I think is a lot of fun for the drivers is through this section, because you've got different elevations, and there's the drop off turn 4 into another compression, then immediately you've got to cut back for 5. You're up the hill and into 6 and into 7, and really all you have to do is blink and you missed about 3 corners.
A1 Team Lebanon, one of the most supportive nations of the whole A1GP concept right from the start. Alex Khatib, one of the drivers who's joined in, not very experienced, certainly compared to a lot of the drivers from European nations and from down under, but they're all enthusiastic. They put a huge amount of commitment and effort into their program, and it's good to see progress being made once again. Let's see whether Khatib can stay ahead of the likes of Brazil, India and Pakistan in this qualifying segment. Let's see if he's got a slightly better lap here than earlier on. 1:19.9 was his previous individual best. He is now 17th. He's moved ahead of Australia, but that lap time a 1:20.3, so he probably would have liked to have done slightly better. Let's get down to pit lane.
Bobby, just tell us what's wrong with Noor's car. We saw what happened on the track.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like a tripod or a drive shaft has gone on the car, and that's very, really sad, because he was doing a really good job, and we had our target to beat India, and I really believe that we could have done that, but unfortunately now it's going to be difficult. But he's doing well this weekend, and I still think there is a good chance for us to get racing with India in the race. So we're looking forward to that.
Will you get him out for the next session?
We'll do our best. There's not much time, as you know, but hopefully we get him out.
Very much.
Well, as we expected, it's going to be a hard one to get the car ready. Let's hope that they do, and in fact Noor's staying in the car, ever hopeful that they will get that car ready, but of course he won't be back out in this particular segment.
No, we always have a focus at the front of the field, because we think about the top teams always battling for pole position, but in fact throughout the field, and certainly in the back of the field, we've got Pakistan, India, currently Brazil is 19th and Australia 18th. Those 4 nations could end up having a cracking day's racing. We may not get to see a lot of it, but there is racing going on throughout the entire field all weekend.
Germany keeping out of the way of the Czech Republic there. India on a lap at the moment. Yes, this is a hot lap for Team India and for Team Czech Republic as well. As you say, John, there's always battles throughout the field, and whichever your nation is, your favourite nation, hopefully you've always got something to cheer them on against a rival. It's quite funny that it's Pakistan and India fighting it away at the bottom end here this weekend, and we'll have to see which one of them comes out on top.
Well, I suppose it's no more funny than Germany battling Great Britain, is it?
Absolutely, no, that's right. Great rivals all the time, in so many different sports, and it happens here as well in A1GP. India's backed right off there, and yet that was his hot lap, so I think he's made a big mistake. Yeah, he's 12 seconds off, so he must have had a big problem somewhere.
In the meantime, Czech Republic, Thomas Enger comes through turn 12 and then down the straight. Czech Republic currently lying in 13th place. 2 almost identical laps on his first 2 runs. This should be a new set of tyres. It should see an improvement in time. It does, a 1:19.2. It's only half a second better than his previous 2 bests, but here's the man, the master of qualifying, the man who's really standing out as being the guy to look to take that pole position for the Sunday sprint race.
Another stunning first sector time from New Zealand, and this could be a very quick lap for Johnny Reid. New Zealand out to defend that pole, and again he's fast. Not quite as quick as he was in the very first segment, but he holds on to pole position, and he's making it harder and harder for everyone behind.
So let's see what happens now, because this is going to be crunch time for Germany. We've got Nico Hülkenberg has got an opportunity here to claw some back. That lap of Johnny Reid's 118.6, some 3.5 tenths of a second slower than his first qualifying sector best time. Hülkenberg now can do something good. He was in 3rd place. He got squeezed out by France for that front row grid position. 2 cars ahead of him, and are those cars on out laps or in laps, whatever they're doing, Nico Hülkenberg, there's in fact 3 cars ahead of him.
Yeah, this could be tricky for the German, but he's up on the time. He's up on the combined time here, so he really does not want to get held up by these cars ahead. He should be just about okay. Might lose a bit of front downforce through the last corner.
No, I think he's going to be all right. I was going to say he might be able to pick up a bit of a draft, but no, that car's going. He's pulling over to the middle to try and pick up some of the slipstream. This is the chance for Germany to get back into the front. They are!
Germany goes quickest by 44 thousandths over 2 laps. That's remarkably close between Germany and New Zealand. A 1:18.2 individual lap from Team Germany. and he was pushing so hard. Watch the right front tyre lock up here.
We've seen Germany and New Zealand do that a lot going into turn 9. So there we see young Christian Torres, the rookie driver from Germany. So Germany back on top.
But
Italy third.
Yeah, Italy suddenly popped up to third. Great lap from Enrico Toccacello. And I saw him earlier, and they were nowhere this morning, and he said, well, you know, it might be different on new tyres. Well, he was right, wasn't he? Because Italy suddenly in the hunt here, and Australia now trying to get themselves ahead of Lebanon, remember. They're down in 18th place. They've got to go better than that. Hopefully Karl Reindler has put together a lap here. Let's see what this does for them. Cross the line goes Australia, and he does. He goes back ahead of Lebanon, and it's proving to be quite a battle. He's only ahead by 29 thousandths of a second.
And now he's got South Africa ahead of him as you go back to Jeroen Blekemolen for the Netherlands. The Netherlands currently in 11th place. 1 minute 19.3 first time out, 1 minute 19.9 second time out. He's got to get into the 18s if he wants to be somewhere near the front.
So Netherlands across the line, fourth. Great lap from Jeroen Blekemolen in the 18s. Another lap from Indonesia that's put them 9th as well. Oh, this was Karl Reindler, just a bit out of shape out of the last corner, but I don't think that would have hurt him too much.
No, I think he was pretty much out of the corner. The momentum and the drive was pretty much there. So we have a look at the very, very busy racetrack, Mexico. And there we see Australia making their way back in. So Salvador Duran, China running behind. Mexico is on a lap, it's on an out lap, so they're not up to speed yet. China, as we're waiting to see, China is on its way back in. So it's a very busy racetrack right now as this Swiss car, Sebastian Buemi, 2 laps, 1 minute 19, 1 minute 19.5. Again, could elevate himself up into the top 6. France and Great Britain, who are currently 5th and 6th, have yet to run. They've got that lap yet to complete.
Yeah, now this could be important, as you say, for Team Switzerland. Sebastian Buemi has impressed us so much in the A1GP events he has done this year, but he hasn't done all of them. Now, let's see if this moves him back up the order once again. It's looking good to be a strong position. Yeah, third. He goes behind Germany and New Zealand. Switzerland goes third ahead of Italy and the Netherlands, but we've still got France and Great Britain to go in this session. Remember, also Mexico, and Mexico on a hot lap at the moment.
Salvador Duran drops out of the run into turn 4. Watch for the back end of the car. Is he going to kick it out? No, he's got good grip. He gets the power on. Car is stable. Understeers into turn 5. That will have shaved a fraction of a second. Then up into turn 6, no problem. Turn 7, let's look and see, is that understeer a problem? It was in the first of the left-hander. It was turn 5, not into turn 7.
Really carries the speed into the left-hander at 8, doesn't he? That you can just see him carry speed into that one. Now he's got to tidy it all up. I like the combination of that section of track where you've got to be so committed through the left-hander, but then get it all balanced and tidy, and it's quite technical through the following right-hander. And that's a bit of a nature of this track. Some places you've got to be brave, other places you've got to be subtle.
Well, Salvador Duran probably still thinking about those glory days in Daytona, but he's coming down start-finish line. So where will Mexico finish? In the top 6 possibly? Well, in fact, they are 7th.
They're in 7th. So Switzerland have effectively gained a bit more on Mexico on that one. France, though, John, Loic Duval, a real threat here. As we've seen already today, France capable of some very quick laps, although his first 2 laps not quite as quick as we might have expected.
It's not working just as well as it appeared to do in Taipo a fortnight ago for France. They're being squeezed now by Great Britain as well as Switzerland, even Italy and the Netherlands, though. Let's wait and see, because on the sheer pace, France and Loic Duval ought to be ahead of those 2 nations.
Yeah, let's see where this puts them. Drop down to 6th because of other people going quick, but remember, they were 2nd before this run, before this segment of qualifying. Do they go back to 2nd or a bit further? I think, nope, 3rd. So it's Germany, New Zealand, France, again those 3 nations racing hard, but we're waiting for Great Britain, Ireland and Canada to complete their laps. They're all on hot laps here. Where is this going to put Great Britain? Great Britain trying to challenge, beats France, goes 3rd on the 2nd row.
So we've got the top 2, the usual top 2, but we've got Great Britain displacing France for that 3rd place.
And Canada, where's Canada going to go? Hinchcliffe's found some time in the last session, but he doesn't this time. He's 7th. We're still waiting for Ireland, I believe, or they now crossed the line. Ireland in 9th place. Yeah, Ireland a bit further up the road, so he's inside the top 10. It's now Germany, New Zealand, Great Britain, France 4th, Switzerland 5th, Italy 6th, then Canada, the Netherlands, Ireland and Malaysia finally Malaysia getting their act together. They were struggling this morning. Malaysia's up to 10th. Mexico 11th. China 12th. USA 13th. Singapore 14th. Indonesia 15th. Czech Republic 16th ahead of South Africa. Australia 18th. Lebanon 19th. Brazil 20th. 21st India. 22nd Pakistan.
And Malaysia, along with a number of teams that don't have a rookie driver here, really beginning to feel the pain of not getting that additional running on the Friday morning session. And of course they had some problems during the sessions here this morning, and they didn't have an entirely good day on Friday, so they are playing catch up.
Johnny Reid for New Zealand. What a battle this is between himself and Germany. Over 2 laps, 2 flying laps which have been added together. Their difference just 44 thousandths of a second. It's nothing to choose between Johnny Reid and Nico Hülkenberg.
And we love this. This is wonderful viewing at home, but the pressure on Johnny Reid, the pressure on Nico Hülkenberg, and they are the two that are going to be most likely to consolidate that front row of the grid. There's 0.3 of a second back to Great Britain. It would take a mountain of a time for Robbie Kerr to put himself onto that front row of the grid.
The interesting thing, John, if you look at Germany's and New Zealand's individual fastest times, they're almost identical to 0.2 of a second. So they're effectively going into this 4th qualifying segment on even terms.
Very much so. The gap is 44 thousandths of a second, and that's not an awful lot of time. It just takes one minute error on a lap, and with 12 corners here and a racetrack that is changing. In fact, as we speak, it looks as if the track, I don't know, there's cloud coming over or something, but it's getting a little bit, the brightness on the heat is changing.
And it looks as though Karl Reindler's broken the visor on his helmet, so whether it's had a clip from something, and he was having to hold it down, he said. You could hear him talking.
Oh, well, I mean, that certainly was worth about 5 seconds a lap, I have to say. I mean, holding your visor down, big deal.
The Harbour Bridge in the background there in Sydney. We're not far away, and we can see it in the distance. Beautiful, beautiful city that it is. That wonderful harbour, and weather conditions have been pretty good. We've had a little bit of cloud the last couple of days here, but it is glorious today, and I'm sure there's lots of people enjoying the famous beaches around Sydney too, Manly Beach and Bondi Beach. But the action here today in qualifying, very much at Eastern Creek Raceway, a superb battle hotting up between Germany and New Zealand, with Great Britain and France in the hunt.
I can't see behind us from the commentary booth, but there you can see just the merest hint of a little bit of cloud drifting in. It certainly looks as if something is blocking the sun, and if it is the case, the track temperature may drop.
Positions then after 3 segments of qualifying: Germany, New Zealand and Great Britain at the top, with France, Switzerland and Italy right in there. Canada, the Netherlands, Ireland and Malaysia complete the top 10 positions. This is how they'll line up for the sprint race, remember. Mexico currently 11th, China 12th, USA 13th, Singapore 14th and Indonesia, Czech Republic, South Africa, Australia, Lebanon, Brazil, India and Pakistan. That's how they'll line up provisionally, I should say. There's still 1 segment of qualifying to go. Back in the New Zealand pit, and it's a question of looking at the information. On one side you've got Johnny Reid looking at his information, on the other there's Nico Hülkenberg, Rob Creswell on the left, just going through the details of what they've recorded and working themselves. At this stage, really, they've got to work directly with their own engineers. There isn't really time to do much sharing of information.
No, and I mean, these are two nations battling each other, but they share engineering information. And that's why these two nations have really been the dominant ones so far. And Johnny Reid and Nico Hülkenberg, they don't work as a team, but they do have that crossover, and it benefits both.
Well, it is fascinating to see the one-to-one confrontation between those two, which will be resolved in just a few moments' time, effectively. Just looking inside the South African pit there, and of course the next race on the calendar is going to be at Durban, something to really look forward to, the street track race that was so successful last year, and it'll be very exciting to see the cars back on the street track. Let's go down to the pits, and I believe Simon Hill has news for us.
Yeah, firstly, Team Mexico looking very perplexed. Salvador Duran really seems very unsure of why he can't get the pace out of it. Australia did not run on new tyres in that last session, so perhaps it wasn't just the fact that poor Karl Reindler had a visor flapping around in his face. The new tyres, or lack of new tyres, wouldn't have helped either. So that's interesting. And just noticed Team Pakistan have got their car fixed, and he's just made his way out onto the circuit.
Yeah, that's a good effort. Thank you, Simon. Good to hear that they managed to get the car repaired and sent him back on his way. inside the Czech Republic pit. Again, qualifying's not going the way of the Czechs, is it, John? Down
No,
to
it's not.
16th.
16th, 8th row of the grid. We know what a great race driver Thomas Enger is, but all you're doing is really putting yourself on the back foot when it comes to particularly the sprint race. The sprint race, sometimes people don't take as seriously as the feature race, partly because the feature race is the money race. But the key to the money race is where you finish in the sprint race, and the key to the sprint race is where you qualify. So you've got to get the qualification really sorted out.
Team Ireland provisionally 9th at the moment, so very similar to where Ireland qualified last time out in New Zealand. He was 9th on the grid, then he suffered a drive shaft problem in the sprint race, and then suspension failure in the feature race. But if they could just find a bit of time. He's in the 1 minute 18s now, is Richard Lyons, so he doesn't need to find a lot more to perhaps get into the top 6.
No, if he could get himself onto the 4th row of the grid, he's got Canada 7th, Netherlands 8th, and the gap between himself in 9th and the Netherlands in 8th is little more than a 10th of a second. So the thing is, Ireland's got to find the 10th of a second. Yeah, the Netherlands have got that to their advantage.
Absolutely right, yes. Alan van der Merwe studying the telemetry. I bet he's looking forward to his home race, although all the pressure will be on. There it is, the Durban race on the 25th of February. And a street track race would be great for him to have that experience. Last year we saw tremendous racing, particularly with Jos Verstappen getting stuck in. He won the second race for Team Netherlands. And there's the lucky hamster in the clog.
Yes.
The mascot for Team Netherlands.
The thing is, I know Jan Lammers is not the tallest guy in the paddock, but I haven't seen Jan Lammers here this weekend either for Team Netherlands.
No, I haven't seen him around. Maybe he's coming in later, but haven't seen him so far this weekend. In the Great Britain pit here now, James Robinson on the left, Robbie Kerr on the right. Let's see whether they can find a bit more time, they're saying. What can we do to gain a few thousandths of a second ourselves?
Well, for Team Great Britain, they've got to find about, well, just under half a second, which is a big ask of Team GBR. They really had a car working probably as well, if not better than anybody else in that final practice session this morning, but to find that level of time is a big ask. And if he could even get himself onto the front row of the grid in second place, he would only be then milliseconds away from being in pole.
Pakistan has completed its final run there, a 1:22.4, not his best lap. His previous best has been a 1:21.9, so he's not going to be ahead of any other nations, but still he's been much closer this weekend, I would say, and they've still got reason to celebrate the progress that they have made.
Yeah, and that's a good effort for Noah Ali to get back into the car, having suffered a drive shaft failure. And there's always the thoughts in your mind, well, it felt very funny, I didn't have that ever happen before, and then to go out stone cold and just get on it. And so a good job for Pakistan, and they are getting themselves very much closer to the field in terms of out and out pace compared to where they were when we went to Zandvoort back at the beginning of October.
So India can go out knowing it will start ahead of Pakistan, but the gap to the next nation, Brazil, is quite a big one. So that's asking a lot of Parthiv Shuraswaran. Alex Khatib coming out for Lebanon. Remember, Lebanon still ahead of Brazil, which I find bizarre. But remember, Tuka Rocha for Brazil is driving with that injured left foot. He's been hobbling around on crutches. I don't know whether that has affected things.
Well, if it does, it shouldn't, because he doesn't have to use his left foot when he's on the racetrack. He only has to use his fingers to change gear and his right foot to brake with. Now, the thing is, Tuka Rocha may be one of these drivers who is a natural left foot braker, and if he's then having to compensate by braking with his right foot, that's a big mental adjustment. I know for a fact that Nico Hulkenberg brakes with his right foot against many of the other drivers who are natural left foot brakers. He did try to brake with his left foot, I believe, in the first rookie session in Taupo, didn't really get on with it, didn't feel comfortable doing it, reverted to his right foot, and of course he went on to win both sprint and feature race in New Zealand.
Yeah, and he's in the hunt here for pole position because it's Germany and New Zealand that are fighting it out. Still just over 10 minutes to go, and everyone's leaving it quite late now. India and Lebanon are on track, but no one else is. Drivers are preparing, but I think we're going to see a real flurry of activity in the final moments of qualifying here at Eastern Creek, just outside Sydney. And it's Italy that is next on track. Italy has been a bit of a surprise contender here in qualifying because they featured not at all in practice, but you can always count on the Italians to spring a surprise. They were the surprise winners in Beijing earlier this year, And Tococello springing the surprise of being a top qualifier potentially here today.
But he's such a laconic personality. He lopes around the paddock, and you look at him and think, well, he doesn't look like a racing driver.
So he so nearly went off. Did you see the black mark of rubber he laid through turn
Well,
one?
I think there's a few black marks left elsewhere as well after that moment.
That was pretty frightening stuff. Alex Khatib nearly going off big time on the exit of turn one, where we saw a massive shunt for Team Japan last year, but he just about got it back.
Again, watch coming out of turn one, and he's just too wide. So he gets to that back of the car stepping out, and he ran over the curb, and that's what really caused that extra little bit of a kick. But it was actually in the middle of the corner where the bump is. It's a nasty bump. There you see the ride of Cowboy. That was a little bit of a scary moment for Alex Khatib as he comes out of turn one.
In the end, it didn't look so bad, but sometimes look at the smile on Khalil's face. He knows, as a driver, when you get that kind of bounce on, John, you don't know which way the car's going to go.
Absolutely, but no one's ever eclipsed Khalil in that first race in Brands Hatch in 2005. Khalil got a triple, I think I was going to say Oscar, for his performance when he rolled the car, barrel rolled it down Paddock Hill Bend. So Khalil still is the master of getting it all wrong.
Well, India have just completed their run there. Oh, that's a good lap, better lap there. 1:21.3 from Parthiv Suraswaran, so good improvement made, but not enough to challenge Brazil. Next up.
So let's see what Enrico Tococello can do. Consolidating on the third row of the grid, sixth quickest lap to date was that third run, 1 minute 18.6. So the Italian once again just pulls a time out of the bag. We often wonder, we're perplexed by Italy when on some occasions they're not even at the racetrack other times.
Oh, he's off! Oh, John, just as you were talking about it, he's made a big mistake and he's not going to improve at all.
Well, all that experience, and he tries to get going again, but all the tires completely choked up with dirt, rubble and whatever. And it looked a good run for Enrico Tococello, but just too greedy coming out of turn 8. There you see engineering and also Giancarlo Gonzani looking Pierluigi, whatever it is, Gonzani, Piercarlo Gonzani looking at it and shaking his head. He knew his driver, at least his driver was trying. You don't mind a driver making an error, that's part of motorsport. Watch it again, this is the view. Oh, that was all, and that's scary. That was a bit like we saw Singapore Christian Murchison do in practice on Friday afternoon, just too wide. Here's them looking at the rear view. Now watch where he is. He's coming through turn 8 and he runs wide, lets it run wide. He just lets it run off the racetrack.
Just too wide. He carried a lot of speed in that time. Went for it, big commitment style. Here it is again, and it just runs wider.
He was too wide, too early in the exit of the corner. He picked up, you could see the corner, there's a lot of rubber on the outside and also just general gravel and rubbish from other cars and running, so he just caught that. Once he was on it, he was going to be a victim, and he gave us a bit of entertainment, a bit of fun, but disappointment for Italy. That's 6th place. They will struggle to hold on to that, assuming that Canada, Netherlands and Ireland are capable of, with one new set of tyres, of doing a further improvement.
Yeah, that could cost him dearly. There's a wry smile on the mechanics' faces.
Man, he was never, he's lucky he even didn't go further off racetrack. When you see it from that head-on view, he was way too wide, too early in the corner.
Yeah, so he miscalculated big time, just when we were saying how well he was doing today. And Italy likely to struggle now to stay in the top 10. Well, it all adds to the fun and games. China next to apply themselves. They're in 12th position currently, which I think matches Ho Pin Tung's best qualifying performance of the year so far. Yeah, he was 12th in Indonesia, but they have had a very fine 4th place on the grid courtesy of Frankie Cheng in the Czech Republic.
And currently it's China who's actually got the fastest single sector time, quicker than we saw from Italy on Italy's last run up until they went wrong. This is the corner where it all went wrong for Italy, and Ho Pin Tung flirts with it too, but it actually exits the corner a little bit later, locks up into turn 9. And has lost momentum there. He had to really just wait for the front end to bite before he could get back on the power.
Yeah, it's a pretty good lap going though here, you know. 4/10 down on a combined time. That's on Germany. Now, if he can keep this going, this could be a big improvement for Team China. Well up into the top 10 potentially. Although I think we're going to see quite a few improvements in this final segment of qualifying. Let's see where it puts him. Fourth place.
1 minute 18.3. I think that's the 3rd or 4th single fastest lap we've seen throughout these 4 sessions. Stunning lap from China.
Brilliant lap from Ho Pin Tung. He's almost as fast as the fastest of the day so far on a single lap. And he, as you say, he teetered with the edge, but he got it right.
Yes, he locked up and he had to wait until he could get the front end to bite before he got back on the throttle. Nico Hülkenberg for Germany, out, not on a flying lap, this is his out lap. Comes down into turn 9, isn't going very quickly, just builds up the speed now, coming up to turn 10, 11 and 12. So the German going out has to do a lap to consolidate. He knows his countryman, not his countryman, his teammate, no, not really his teammate, but his mate, Johnny Reid, has got the capacity to eclipse any provisional pole the German might attempt to set.
He's certainly out there relatively early. Let's ride on board with him as he comes across the line and he goes on to a flying lap. Absolutely flat out through turn number 1 and now heavy braking into turn 2.
And again, you can hear, and he runs a little bit too wide in the middle part of, he gets it back. Maybe it wasn't as bad as it looked. That onboard camera is showing you from the right-hand side of the car. You don't know where the left side was in relation to the apex.
Looking good on the first split. The car sliding around, real commitment here, but he's got to thread it carefully through the next section.
He's got traffic out ahead of him as well. It's sufficiently far ahead not to come into play, but Nico Hülkenberg will be aware that that car is either coming in or going out. We can't identify it right now. Oh, careful into turn 8.
This is where Italy had the big problem, but he gets through there in one piece.
I have a feeling that might be New Zealand out ahead. No, it's not. It is New Zealand. They're on a hot lap, I think.
Let's see where the second sector puts him. He's half a second up on his combined times. This is looking very quick, and it looks like an individually a quicker lap than we've seen. Oh, he's a bit wide there.
When you're 20 years old, you do that. You don't think about it, you do it, and you get the dividend. And this could be the single fastest lap of all the sessions we've seen to date from Germany.
Germany about to cross the line, holds the top time.
17.962, the first man ever in an A1GP car to get below the magical 1 minute 18 seconds.
But New Zealand are on the attack as well, and Johnny Reid, who's been the star qualifier, is up himself on that new target that has been set by Germany. This is going to go all the way between these two. Germany versus New Zealand for pole position. They could well end up on the front row together. And then look how much he's up by. He's up by 8/10.
It's massive. It is absolutely massive. Johnny Reid, we thought that we'd seen from Nico Hülkenberg a blinding lap. 1 minute 17.962, the single fastest lap ever in an A1GP car here in Eastern Creek.
New Zealand, can Johnny Reid do it again? Is he going to take pole position across the line? He goes, no! He's lost some time on that final sector. He goes second, and Germany has pole.
Well, out of breath with that one, and now got Loic Duval for France. And France currently down in 5th place. Their best lap, 1 minute 18.511. This is going to be a big ask of the Frenchman to elevate himself onto the second row.
It might be too much, but let's see what the lap time's like. He goes third. It's a 1:18.2. Quick lap, but not quick enough to get on the front row this time.
So the battle for second row positions are going to be between, really, well, it's almost done and dusted, because I don't think anybody's going to challenge Great Britain for that 4th slot, second row of the grid.
No, the question is whether Great Britain can challenge France, which he could do, actually, Robbie Kerr. But let's focus on South Africa here. South Africa way down at the moment with some of the other improvements. 17th position is the position for South Africa. And with their home race coming up next, he will want to qualify well.
Switzerland have slotted themselves now into 4th place, just ahead of Team GBR. A good lap from Switzerland, 1 minute 18.534. Great Britain have got one lap quicker than that, 1 minute 18.5, so let's see.
South Africa about to cross the line, so he stays 17th. It's been a bitterly disappointing qualifying for South Africa. I'm not sure quite what happened there. And now we're keeping an eye on Great Britain. Good lap going. It's not the fastest outright, but this could put him back into 3rd place potentially. Robbie Kerr looking to hold a top qualifying position here. I don't think it'll be enough to get on the front row, but he could well displace France, who are currently 3rd. Let's see if it's enough. Cross the line he goes. Yes, he just beats France. He goes 3rd. France pushed back to 4th. Switzerland 5th, and China in a fantastic 6th place.
Well, that I think has got to be the surprise of the qualifying here in Eastern Creek. A great run, unexpected from Ho Ping Tung to put his car on the third row of the grid, 6th quickest overall.
Canada 11th, USA 7th. So Phil Giebler pulled something out of the bag after going off on the first segment of qualifying. Phil Giebler recovered pretty well, and he's qualified 7th for the United States, with the Netherlands and Ireland also up there in the top 10. So what a dramatic qualifying session. Germany on top from New Zealand and Great Britain, with France, Switzerland and China in the top 6. The United States, Netherlands, Ireland and Malaysia complete the top 10. And then it's Canada, the Czech Republic, Italy, who lost out hugely, Mexico, Indonesia, Singapore 16th, South Africa 17th, Australia 18th, then Lebanon, Brazil, India and Pakistan. What a session, what a head-to-head battle that was between this guy, Nico Hulkenberg, and the man in the background there in the black overalls, Johnny Reid for New Zealand. The difference in the end over 2 laps was just 0.2 of a second, and really there was nothing to choose between them. Fantastic from 2 drivers at the top of their form at the moment. And Great Britain and France could not quite challenge, but it was close between them. Great Britain ended up just 0.3 off, and it's nice to see the 2 guys having a little conversation there. Difficult one. Johnny Reid will be frustrated. Thought he may have been able to hold on to pole. He seemed to have a very good final lap going. Just seemed to lose out a little bit towards the end of it. But Hulkenberg, as he had in New Zealand, has taken pole position, and this tour down under is turning into a bit of a tour de force for Nico Hulkenberg and for Team Germany. All the drivers looking at the monitor there in scrutineering and trying to work out where they got the time, where they didn't get the time. Great Britain did a 1:18.116, so I think actually that is the second fastest individual lap time. Actually went to Robbie Kerr in the end there. It's just that he didn't match it up with another one quite as quick, and that's why he's ended up in 3rd place on the grid. It is the unique form of A1GP qualifying that you have to get 2 good laps together. You could end up with a single fastest lap, but you might not be in the top 4 if your other 3 laps aren't particularly quick. Richard Lyons has just walked in. There's Robbie Kerr just walking in with helmet on, congratulating Nico Hulkenberg. And Richard Lyons, 9th place for Team Ireland. I think he'll be relatively happy. There is Tuka Rocha. We told you he was on crutches when he's out of the car. Oops, nearly had another shunt then, didn't he? Let's hope he can stay on his crutches. Otherwise he could injure the other foot as well. He certainly won't be racing then. Brazil do have another driver here this weekend, but he's not down to actually drive the car this time. He's looking to perhaps drive as a rookie. That's Luis Razia, who's the reigning South American Formula 3 champion. But one of the outstanding efforts of that qualifying was from China, Ho Ping Tung, 6th quickest, and that really was impressive, with a 1:18.3 at the end. Let's take a look at how they will line up then for the sprint race. It'll be Germany and New Zealand on the front row, Great Britain and France on the second. Switzerland and China have both qualified extremely well. USA in 7th place, Netherlands 8th, Ireland 9th, and Malaysia in 10th position. 11th for Canada, 12th for the Czech Republic, and Italy losing out after a spin in the final segment of qualifying, only 13th. Mexico is surprisingly far down in 14th. Indonesia 15th, then Singapore, South Africa, Australia, and then Lebanon, Brazil, India and Pakistan.
Welcome back to A1GP Australia. Sydney playing host to the World Cup of Motorsport this weekend. Last year it was Team France who had pole, but this year a battle to the wire between Nico Hulkenberg and Johnny Reid, but Hulkenberg just pipping it. Let's get to Andy's reaction to those qualifying sessions, starting I suppose with Nico Hulkenberg, who starts on pole for the sprint. Struggling a little bit early on. How did he get that back though? Yeah, it was quite interesting to see actually. He looked a bit scruffy to begin with, and then really raised his game at the end, and it was a real fantastic battle, great to watch. You can see he locked up his right front here. This was his first practice, first segment, and looked a bit scruffy, and on the second segment as well he looked a bit scruffy, but really pulled his act together and did a great job and finished on a real flyer, I would say. We are seeing this battle emerging between New Zealand and Germany. Teammates Johnny Reid and Nico Hulkenberg, not by nation but by team. How much are they working together during qualifying? How much data is being shared, if any at all?
Well, this is quite funny looking at these two guys. They're not looking at each other. You know, there's a lot of out-psyching going on here. I mean, you know, Johnny Reid wants to beat this guy. He's the young upstart and he's doing a great job. They will be sharing data, but I would be, in this situation, limiting what I'd be saying to my engineer, because I don't want the other guy to hear what I'm saying. You know, you've got to try and find the fair advantage. So it was quite interesting looking at the two of them. They're not looking, they're talking to their engineers, you know, describing the car and what it's doing. And obviously Nico pulled his act together in the last run there and did a great lap. But I can't help feeling a bit sorry for Johnny Reid, because my money was on Johnny, actually, to be honest, and I thought he was going to do the job. He looked extremely fast.
What we also noted as those sessions went on was the dirt that was starting to gather on the track. How big a problem could this be potentially for tomorrow?
Well, the track's narrow and obviously extremely dusty on the exit. You can see Robbie here exiting the corner and picking up some dirt. Okay, it didn't affect him in that corner, but don't forget the tyres are hot and sticky and you carry that dirt with you to the next turn. And you know, tomorrow in the race it's going to be very difficult for them to know what to expect. Lots of guys will be making mistakes.
One guy who certainly didn't make much of a mistake today was Ho Pin Tung in the Chinese car. Third fastest lap of the day from Team China. You wouldn't expect that, would you? No,
I mean, that was an impressive. I mean, looking at him, he's Formula BMW champion. He's driven a Williams Formula 1 car. I'm actually quite impressed with what I see. He drove a real tidy, fast lap. He was third quickest overall. Mustn't forget what Robbie did as well at the end there, second quickest, and obviously third overall, which is great to see him doing so well.
Hey, I tell you another thing where the track was demonstrated as being a little bumpy, which is what we'd said before qualifying session. Alex Khatib, he had some problems with it, didn't he, in the Lebanon car?
Yeah, absolutely. That turn one is nasty, and we saw Shimoda make a big mistake there last year.
Is this going to catch a few people out?
Well, the problem is that it's bumpy, and if you turn the car in, you're fully committed here, 165 mile an hour. Look, run out of road, touched a bit of, you know, it was lucky. You do that in the race when your tyres are getting a bit worn. You're going to slide a bit more, and you know, I'm surprised that that exit curb isn't wider. Actually, you can see the bumps there and the car moving around. He was a lucky boy.
The men certainly being separated from the boys out there on the Eastern Creek circuit. OK, time for a break. When we come back, more reaction to events in Sydney and Andy's final thoughts ahead of race day. Welcome back to Eastern Creek, Sydney. On pole for race day then, Team Germany and Nico Hulkenberg just pipping Johnny Reid at the very last minute there in session 4, and Great Britain taking third spot from Frenchman Loic Duval in 4th. Well, John Watson's been catching up with the 3 quickest around the Eastern Creek circuit today. Let's hear from them.
Welcome to the Pangaea A1GP superb hospitality area here at Eastern Creek, and once again I'm joined by the top 3 in qualifying. 2 familiar faces, somebody who's not been here for a long time. We'll have a word with Robbie Kerr in a minute, but first of all, let's go to the German, Nico Hulkenberg. Nico, very tight qualifying between you, Germany, Johnny Reid for New Zealand.
Yeah, it was not easy. It's easy to make mistakes on that track, so you have to find a compromise between pushing and driving safely. But yeah, I think we have a good run.
Now the 4th session seemed to me as the cloud, what it is right now, drifting in. You did the single fastest lap ever by an A1GP car in that last segment.
Yeah, we have seen the cloud coming in. That's why we have decided to exit the pit earlier. And yeah, that was a perfect lap, the last qualifying.
Now this is your 2nd pole consecutively. You had pole and typo, but there was a lot of confusion coming up to the grid for the start of the sprint race. You pushed out from your position. What happened?
I don't know what happened.
Is it going to happen tomorrow? Is Johnny going to take your position?
No, definitely not.
Definitely not. Johnny, I mean, what a battle between the two of you once again. And, I mean, I couldn't pick and choose. Just that final run of Nico seemed to have the advantage. Where were you in that last session?
I was behind the South African car, which I lost a little bit of aero grip, but nothing too drastic. Managed to keep a solid lap, but you know, pole position goes to Nico, and top job. It was very close there and very intense.
It was very close. Now, we've seen you two guys together on the front row of a grid in previous events. Nico's on the inside going into turn 1, the left-hand corner. You're on the outside. Do you think that it's possible for you two guys to go through there from the rolling start, flat out, and not hit each other?
Definitely so. We've done it before, and we've also hit each other before. But you know, the championship is at stake, so I'm sure we'll both be using our heads.
It's going to be a tough race on Sunday if these temperatures remain, particularly the feature race. Any preparation you're doing for that?
Oh, you're always training constantly, and you know, now the 07 started back up. Yeah, it's the height of the summer here, so it is going to be a tough race. The circuit's very slippery. Tyre degradation is huge here, so it's going to be a tough race for us all.
Okay, well, we've got a familiar face to many of us, but he hasn't been here for a long time. What have you been doing the last few races, Robbie Kerr?
Having lots of bad luck.
Well, you know, good to see you back up, third quickest. You had a great car here in this morning's practice, and it translated into a pretty good car. But have you got the pace to match New Zealand and Germany in the sprint race?
Definitely, we've got a really good car for race pace, and the car was fantastic this morning. We had to change it quite a bit to get the best out of it in qualifying, which is a little bit disappointing, but we had a good car there at the end. Unfortunately, it wasn't there at the start, but we had it at the end, and we now know what we've got to do for the race setup as well.
Robbie, you're known to be a bit of a racer, and you have bumped into a few people in the course of passing them. Can you pass these two guys seriously, or are you just going to consolidate for the feature race?
Well, it's definitely, they're there to be overtaken, and if the opportunity arises, one of them makes a mistake or the door's wide open, I'm going to put myself there.
I don't think they're going to let you do that, are you guys?
Nope.
In a word, Nico, are you going to let them come up and give you a hard time?
No, I'll try everything to keep him in my mirrors.
Exactly, that's what you guys have got to do, but Robbie, you know what you've got to do as well. Good luck to all three of you on Sunday in the sprint race. Let's now go back upstairs to the comment booth. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Or even back into the studio in London. Thanks very much, John. It may get the adrenaline pumping this circuit, but it's not the only way that A1GP drivers are getting their kicks in Sydney. Take a look at this.
Some of the most iconic landmarks in the world provided the backdrop for our drivers' fun in Sydney. After some PR work and a little posing, it was time to play, and what a playground to have. Jet boating in the famous Sydney Harbour.
It was the first time out for me on the jet boat, and it was really great fun. Going like 80 flicks through the harbour on the water, have a nice view on the opera. It was really brilliant.
It was good fun. The guy knew what he was doing. We were all screaming, willing him on, and he got more and more leery.
It was pretty nice out there. It's good action, and we had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
We got to see the Sydney Opera House, the bridge, so it was really good fun. Yeah, a couple of 360s, so it was a great experience.
But how does it compare to the A1GP car?
Well, obviously in the cars we get high Gs, and out there it was pretty impressive actually. I've never done it before, so to be racing around the Opera House like that and underneath the harbour bridge, it was just fantastic.
It's very different. On the water you get much more of a sensation of speed, and when you hit wake it's quite a jolt to the back and that sort of thing.
It's a completely different feeling, that's for sure. It's you're still pulling similar, like a lot of Gs out there, but the cold and the wet and the loss of voice is a bit unfamiliar.
It's unusual for us guys not to be in control, or most of us not to be in control, shall we say. But you know, it's a different experience to be driven rather than to drive ourselves.
So a lot of fun. Not all hard graft, is it, in Sydney? Actually, having just looked at that, I feel a bit queasy, so I'm quite glad I'm not involved in that. What about you?
Yeah, there's a few sharks in there as well. I'd be a bit worried. There's
true.
a lot of
you
sharks
don't want to
in
get thrown over the edge. Let's talk about what John Watson was saying between Team Germany and Team New Zealand. Can you sense the rivalry between the two of them, Johnny Reid and Nico Hulkenberg, when they even sit in front of John and answer his questions?
Yeah, there's rivalry there. I can see it. I can see it in the debrief after qualifying. And Johnny wants to beat this guy. You know, your biggest competitor is your teammate because you're in the same car, you've got the same equipment. You know,
How do you find that balance though as a racing driver? Because obviously you have to work together to some degree.
Yeah, what you got to try and do is take the positives from the other guy without giving them too much information. You've got to use it to raise your game. And if you can do that and it's possible to do that, then great. But it's lovely to be in that sort of rivalry and that position. It really does take you to another level.
Nico Hulkenberg producing the single fastest lap ever in an A1 GP car. Just how special is he?
He's very special. He's very, very quick. He really pulled it out the bag at the end, and I was a bit surprised because I saw Johnny Reid, you know, in his lap there. He was really up on the sectors, and I thought he's going to put it on pole.
Was that dirt on the track again?
I don't know. When I heard him speak there, it looks like he said he lost a little bit of grip behind the car, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, you know, Hulkenberg was faster, and Johnny has to take it on the chin. He looks like quite a gritty guy, and I think he'll be fighting hard. But don't underestimate Robbie. He came second last year in the feature race.
And don't underestimate the Team China driver, Ho Pin Tung, either. He's been speaking to Simon Hill.
Hoping a fantastic performance in that final run. Big changes to the car?
Yeah, yesterday we've been really struggling with the car, and we made quite a lot of changes, especially for this morning's session. But I think the tyres were just too worn out this morning to really feel the balance. And now in qualifying, everything was pretty much right. And during the session, I kept on improving myself, and I think yeah, it was a reasonable good lap. Still made a few errors locking up, but altogether I'm pretty satisfied. Yeah.
Great job. Enjoy the race.
Cheers.
He's pretty candid, isn't he? Definitely one to watch, Ho Pin Tung. Let's get back to Andy's thoughts ahead of race day. Robbie in third spot at the moment. How far away is he from the likes of Nico Hulkenberg and Johnny Reid, who are in 1 and 2?
Well, I wouldn't rule him out. He's a determined guy. He's quick. He's a proven race winner in the other formulas, and you know, he did come second last year, and he's improved the car. I wouldn't like to you know, to rule Robbie out. He's a quick guy.
In terms of the championship, though, how important is it that he puts points on the board here, because he didn't manage to in Taupo?
Yeah, the worst thing at the moment is you've got the championship leader sat on pole position, and you've got, you know, New Zealand right behind, and Robbie's got to try and get past both of these guys. It's going to be difficult for him to close the gap, but it's so nice not to be talking about Team France dominating. They're fourth. They're out of the top, you know, they're not on the front row, and you know, it's wide open for. I think there's a big fight for second place at the moment.
And what about one to watch tomorrow? Who would be your key person to keep an eye on? Would it be China's Ho Pin Tung?
Yeah, it might be. I think he's done a great lap. I don't think he'll be able to do it, you know, lap after lap in the race. I wouldn't rule out Nico Hulkenberg, but he tidied up his act. But if he makes a small mistake, could be game over for him.
OK, thanks to Andy for overseeing qualifying for us today. Race day now beckons, of course. You can see it all here on Sky Sports. We're live from Eastern Creek, 3 a.m, Saturday night, Sunday morning. Sky Sports 3, the place to be for all the action from Australia. And as qualifying proved, there's little between them, but which teammate, Nico Hulkenberg or Johnny Reid, will have the last laugh on race day? We'll see you for it. More sport, news and views at skysports.com.